Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list video. This one is going to be for patch 2.5, so season 2, and this is the mid-season patch. And so 2.5 just got released about a week and a half or so ago. And so I always feel like this is sort of the best time to make a tier list just because everybody's starting to understand what the meta is and starting to understand what the meta characters are. So we're going to be doing our traditional tier list, S through F or whatever it is. But before we do that, I always like to do our and this is mostly for ranked, but I always like to do our top bands, our top 3 picks for Strategist, Vanguard, and Duelists, and kind of explain them so people who play ranked and want to sort of like climb the ranks know and understand what the meta characters are right now. For those of you that don't know me, I'm currently in Celestial 2, Celestial 1. I kind of hover around that area. Last season, I was Eternity. And so this season, I've been getting still quite a bit of Eternity and one above all players in my games. And so this is kind of a product of what I've noticed, what gets banned and picked quite a bit in my games, pretty much in like the high-level ranked matches. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. To start us off, let's go over some bans. So Hawkeye gets banned pretty much every single game. You could trade out the Hawkeye ban for a Luna ban if you wanted to. However, Hawkeye seems to just be the favorable ban right now, mostly because, one, he's just Hawkeye. Everybody hates playing against Hawkeye. Everybody hates Hawkeye that isn't Hawkeye or who's not on Hawkeye's team, But for the second reason, it's because he actually got a team up with Luna that allows him to shoot like frost arrows from far away, so he can actually like freeze multiple people at one time, and then he can just line up his headshots and kill them. So he gets banned out literally every single game right now. Like I said, sometimes he won't get banned out and maybe like Luna will take his place, but for the most part, it's going to be like a Hawkeye gap and he's going to get banned out every single game. Similar to Hawkeye, we have I almost said Jeff. Similar to Hawkeye, we have Storm. Storm gets banned out just about every single game right now, and the reason being is because one, she got a slight buff, I think, to her damage, like her ult damage. But the big thing too is that she has a team up with Jeff right now. This little guy that creates the Jeff NATO, so it consumes her ult, it consumes Jeff's ult. It pretty much makes her ult last longer. I believe it does more damage, although I might be mistaken on that. But it makes her ult last longer, and then Jeff can also like swallow people while she's ulting, like inside that combo ult that pretty much negates healer ult effects, like the enemy healer's ult. And so she is a menace on the battlegrounds right now, especially with Jeff. So she's pretty much getting banned out every single game as well. So these are by far your top 2 bans. These 2 characters get banned out every single game. And then we have our next bans. These characters don't really get banned out as much. And what I mean by that is like these 2 bans are going to vary from game to game. So on one hand, we have Iron Man. He gets banned out. I'd say, okay, so if these 2 characters get banned out, say 95% of the games, I'd say Iron Man gets banned out a solid like 75% of the games or maybe 80% of the games, that kind of thing, right? So these 2 characters are by far the most consistent. Iron Man would be the next most consistent. And reason being, I think, is just because all around he's a super good pick. So on one hand, he gives Ultron a team-up ability, which allows Ultron to essentially shoot out like a beam, kind of like Jeff's left click, now that I think about it. But he shoots out a beam that does healing and damage and goes through people. And then Iron Man also gets a 5% damage boost to his damage. So he just does a ton of damage right now, and of course he has the one-shot ult. I've always thought Iron Man was kind of slept on, so I'm kind of glad he's getting even more play, even like without Hulk, right? Obviously, he was never slept on with the Hulk team up, but even without Hulk, I think he's like still really good. So I'm kind of glad I'm seeing him get a lot of play. But yeah, Iron Man is going to be the next up on the bans list. Again, he's not banned out every game. These 2 slots typically vary, but I do see him quite enough to like put him on this list. And then last but not least, we have Ultron. Ultron, if Iron Man's getting banned out 75% of the time, I'd say maybe Ultron's getting banned out 30-40% of the time, right? So like I said, it just varies from game to game. But Ultron is the newest release. He got released with this 2.5 patch along with the new map Araco. And overall, I think he's a pretty good pick. A lot of people think he's OP. I don't quite think he's OP. I think he's good. I actually think he's probably on the more balanced side. Besides his ult, I think his ult comes up way too fast. That is one thing they need to change. But overall, he's kind of like a hybrid DPS healer, right? Like he is made to mostly deal damage, but he can have a lot of healing if his ult's up. His base healing ability is not too good, and I'm gonna go over Ultron a little bit more later into what comps I think he's like better with. But for the most part, he does get banned here and there. I think mostly because if you are against a good Ultron player and he isn't a 3 healer comp, he can be pretty tough to deal with essentially. So I usually see him, but for the most part, it's just going to be Storm and Hawkeye that are the main 2 bans, and then oftentimes than not, teams will overlap one of these bans. So maybe Storm or Hawkeye will get banned twice. So really, you're just getting 3 bans instead of 4, if that makes sense, because there might not be like 4 unique bans. But let's go over strategists. So my top 3 strategists for the season so far are Luna, Loki, and Inviswoman. Now Luna, besides the team up with Hawkeye, she got her own buffs, so she pretty much does a little bit more healing now. Before, she was doing about 60 healing per like burst for her autos, but now she does about 66. And she also got a damage buff to that too. So before she did like 60 damage for her autos, I guess, and now she does like 66. Luna does a ton of damage as a backline healer. And she just heals a ton. Like, if you are playing Luna, expect to have the most healing in the game, right? Outside of her ult, she just heals so much with her autos, her snowflake, everything in between. So Luna is still going to be one of our best strategists, and her damage boost, like combo that she can do, right, with a lot of these other characters like Namor and some of these other characters like Iron Man. I mean, he already one-shots, but you know what I mean, right? Like, she can still combo really well. They didn't really nerf that aspect of her. And yeah, I mean, they just give her buffs, so she's going to be up there. Next up, we have Loki. I don't play Loki too much. I just don't find his kit as fun, but Loki is a really good character. Loki is a very good character. He can just copy Luna ult. He can copy anybody, really, and he gets his ult as one of the fastest supports. Probably not as fast as Ultron. I think Ultron like beats out Loki from that sense, but it's pretty damn close. It's pretty damn close. So Loki's going to be up there just because Loki is, you know, he's a menace, right? I think he's been good every single season. I don't think there's been a single season where Loki has been a bad pick. So yeah, I mean, he gets his ult as one of the fastest. He can get ult before Luna and then copy Luna, and then like push a fight with a Luna ult before Luna even gets her ult. And he also just does a lot of damage, and he's pretty good against dive as well. So, and then last but not least for the strategist, we have Inviswoman. Now, I actually do think these 3 are better picks than Ultron. I know Ultron's up on the bans list, and usually what I would do is, like, you know, if he's not banned, these pick top 3. I do think these 3 are better than Ultron, mostly because I think Ultron needs a like triple healer comp to really work out. From my experiences, at least in my games, it's just not enough healing. If I'm, say, playing Inviswoman and I have an Ultron as my like backup healer, it's just not working out. I'm often dying too because I'm not getting healed, because Ultron does very little healing with his base kit unless he has like the team up with Iron Man, but even that's like inconsistent. So we do have Inviswoman as our last strategist. She just still heals a ton. Her shield has a lot of play to it. I've talked a lot about Inviswoman in the past, but she just has a lot of play when it comes to pushing and pulling enemies, right? In a fight, you can, you know, push Strange away while he's ulting, push people off the map. You have a lot of influence in the fight that goes beyond just being a healer. So she's actually my favorite strategist in the game for that reason alone. But I also think she's by far like top 3. Somebody asked me the other day too. They said, hey, like, is there a time not to pick Inviswoman? And I was thinking about it, and I said, honestly, you can kind of pick Inviswoman whenever you want to. I think she's good for the most part. Whereas, like, say, Luna, for example, maybe my aim's off that day or that game, or maybe there's just too much dive and I just can't handle it. So I'm going to swap off Luna, maybe play some C&D or play Loki or Inviswoman, one of those 3, or Rocket. But Inviswoman, I think you can kind of play whenever. So she's going to be a top 3 strategist pretty much in every tier list that I create, unless they harden her for numbers or like change up her kit or something like that. I think she's always going to be up there. Vanguards. So for Vanguards, we have Magneto. That's not surprising. Magneto, I think, has been probably one of the best Vanguards in the game for the last, I don't know, a few seasons at this point. I mean, we're in season 2.5, but there's been season 0, 1, and 2. So like 3 seasons total. But he's just really, really good. He has one-shot ult capability, so he can counter a lot of healers. He can counter a lot of DPS ults. Like, he can suck in Iron Man ult if he wants to, or like suck in Hell ult, that kind of stuff. And he has a lot of play, right? He can save people with his bubble. I mean, he's just all around one of the best Vanguards, has one of the best Vanguard kit designs. So, and he's also really good at being an aggressive tank too, if you want to play like that. I see a lot of Magnetos just kind of walk up and then like try to one-shot combo me in the back line. So it's quite annoying. But yeah, he's just going to be up there. Groot is the next one. Now, Groot, I think, did receive some nerfs. Mag also got like a nerf to his ult, I believe, but it wasn't enough. I think it was just like the energy that, like, I think his ult comes up slower, essentially. But Groot also got some nerfs too, and same with Emma. But Groot and Emma, in my opinion, are still like gonna be two of the top Vanguards outside of Magneto. I just think their kits alone have so much play into them, and for them not to be meta, they would have to significantly nerf their numbers. Which they did a little bit, but like even more so. Emma still like one shots me while she like combos me and kicks me. And Emma's also going to be one of the best anti-dive Vanguards as well. So with Emma on the field, as long as your Emma is playing anti-dive, they essentially like can't really pick Magic, right? Or they can't really pick Iron Fist because she literally just combos them, and then you guys just kill them off of the Emma CC. So. Those are going to be my top 3 Vanguards. I also think Strange is really good this season, and I was really debating putting Strange up here. But I just still think these 3 have like the most impact, the best impact in the game. So, but Strange is still really, really good. You could still pick him and be completely fine. And then last but not least, we have Duelists. So obviously we have these 3 Duelists up here, right? Hawkeye, Storm, and Iron Man. But if these characters are banned, which they typically are, then these would be my next 3 Duelists up. Wolverine, I think I think Wolverine might be better than Iron Man. The thing about Wolverine is like, a lot of people still don't pick him that much, but he's insane, right? Like he's just a tank pick character, or he's an anything pick character. Like you grab somebody, throw him up into your backline, and then you guys kill him, and now you guys can advance because you guys are now up in a 6v5, right? You're up a person. So I think Wolverine has just so much play. Typically when I get Wolverines on my team, as long as they're like doing their job, we'll typically win the game. And then same thing with the enemy Wolverines, right? Like vice versa. If the enemy has a good Wolverine and we don't, like typically they win the game from what I've noticed. You can pick characters like Invis-Woman to kind of counter him, but he can try to play around that. But yeah, she's a really, really good counter pick. So if you're a strategist main and you see a Wolverine, this character is going to be really, really good into him. But yeah, overall, like his kit's still like very, very strong. He's a great pick character. And also too, like if wolves know how to play around their ult correctly, which most do, especially at a high level, if you're picking wolf, then of course you know how to play them. You can just ult healers out of their ults. Well, when I say healers, I mean like Invis-Woman or like well, I guess Mantis ult sticks around her, but like Invis-Woman and some of these other characters, Luna of course is CC immune, right? But you can like ult a lot of these people out of their ults and just kill them and then like cancel out the healer ult. So he's still very, very strong in my opinion. I think he's top 3, top 4 DPS right now, or Duelist right now. And then next up we have Hela. Hela, again, still super strong. She is, in a lot of aspects, I think Hela and Wolverine are like the 2 scariest outside of like Hawkeye for me, just because they just do so much damage. Or like, especially Hela, she just does so much damage. She's kind of like she's kind of like Hawkeye in a sense, right? But like she can't one-shot to the head, but she has more consistent autos, right? I believe she gets 6 to 8 autos and she can just keep firing them until she has to reload. Whereas Hawkeye kind of has to charge this thing up and it's a little bit more conditional. But Hela just does a lot of damage. She's a great all-around DPS pick. I love these kinds of DPS too because I can just pocket them really easily since they sort of sit in my backline and try to take off angles and all that kind of stuff. So for the most part, Hela is still going to be a top Duelist pick. And then last but not least, I have Punisher on this list. Punisher is not going to be as good as like these characters. However, he's still going to be really good. I thought with the Rocket team up going away this patch, he would be kind of ass, but they gave him like quite a bit of buffs to his base kit, and he seems to be just really, really strong. And then I don't think Rocket's as good this patch, but like even if you're still picking Rocket and you're combo ulting with Punisher, like he's still killing. Like he's just farming. So overall, Punisher I think is a great character, like all around. Does a lot of damage. His ult combined with Rocket ult, or even combined with Luna ult, right? If you want to do damage boost on Luna ult, is still going to be something that like you can't peek and you can't really out heal it. Like he will kill you if he's on point with his left click. So yeah, for the most part, this is going to be the list for my top 3 for each role, and then like my top 3 to 4 bans. But yeah, let's go ahead and go over to the main portion of the tier list. All right, so here's the official tier list. I've done a double S through D rating instead of just an S through F rating. I just thought that was better because I like to show what the absolute best characters in the tier list are, that I think at least. And so yeah, each section besides double S has, you know, what I described the section to be. So for example, S is excellent, A is very good, B is good, C is average, and D is subpar. So I'm just going to briefly go over the characters very briefly, since there's a ton of characters, and should give you reasons as to why I put them there. So to start us off, let's go over the double S part. So we have Hawkeye, Luna, and Magneto. So if you guys skip the other portion, I have pretty much Hawkeye as being like practically one of the best characters in the game, which is why he's under double S. I think obviously his team up with Luna's OP, but usually Hawkeye is banned or Luna's banned, but mostly Hawkeye. But even if Hawkeye doesn't have the Luna team up, his base kit is just insane. They like also buffed him aside from giving him this OP-ass team up. And so like his base kit's just going to be insane. The fact that I've always complained about this, but you shouldn't be able to one-shot headshot somebody, in my opinion. I just kind of feel like that makes the game unfun and a little bit more random. I agree with being able to one-shot players, but I think you need to consume something for it, right? There needs to be some sort of trade-off. For example, like Magneto can one-shot somebody with his ult, right? Or Iron Man can one-shot people with his ult, but that takes up their ultimate ability. So that's the trade-off, right? To be able to do something like that. Hawkeye can just do it with his base auto attacks. And to me, that's just never really felt like it should actually be in the game, because it doesn't really feel like there's a trade-off for it. And so, yeah, overall, my rant about Hawkeye is kind of over, but overall, I think this character is just a double S tier character. He is absolutely insane, and if you have an insane Hawkeye, he can definitely just carry a game. Luna's going to be next up. Luna is just an absurd healer. She has the most healing that anybody can give in a single game. Oftentimes, if you see like Luna's healing stats versus other healers, sometimes it's just not comparable. Like if I feel like I'm healing a lot and all of a sudden the game's over and I look at my Luna or the enemy Luna, they have like 20k more healing than me. And it's just like, oh, that character just heals way too much. Like I don't even know how to out heal that character. If she's like, not getting dope and all that kind of stuff. So she just does a ton for the team. Her ult is still probably the best support ult in the game. There's just no reason, in my opinion, that she should not be at least double S. And then we have Magneto. Magneto is a double S tier character because this character has been good, as I mentioned before earlier on the tier list. This character has been good throughout like all the seasons. His base kit itself, I think, is just really, really good. Despite them nerfing his ult a little bit, like nerfing the energy time that it takes to get his ult, his kit overall is just good, and he's still gonna have his ult up most fights. So yeah, I mean, these are my top three, and I just think all three of them can be played every single game, and you probably should be looking to pick all three of them every single game if they are up. So that's why that's why all three of them are in double S. So now we go over to S. Excellent, still very good characters. Loki, of course. Loki has one of the fastest support ults in the game, I think, outside of Ultron. Maybe it's even faster than Ultron's, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure Ultron's is faster. And he can just heal a ton and then copy Luna ult, and now you have like two of the best support ults in the game on the same team, consistently up. So Loki's just always going to be good. Again, another character whose base kit's insane. Wolverine, kind of same thing. Wolverine's ability to be able to grab somebody, and then even with Rocket's jump boost, being able to pick somebody off at the beginning of the game as well is super influential. But just being able to pick somebody off and bring them to your team and then pretty much make it a 6v5, I think that ability is just unparalleled. I mean, who else has that? Probably like Bucky and Spider-Man a little bit, which I'll get into here in a second. But yeah, I mean, Wolverine's just insane. His ability to shred tanks. And people say, or at the very least used to say, he wasn't really that good against non-tanks, but I don't know, man. I still think he's really good against non-tanks, especially if he ults correctly. Oftentimes I see Wolverines get massive ults, and if they get a massive ult and you don't have someone like an Invis Woman to push him off the ult landing, or if she gets caught in it, then like he will just murder 3 or 4 players. And then that's the fight, right? Like it's over. So this character, I think, has some of the biggest impact that a duelist can actually have in a game, especially, aside from Hawkeye. Storm is another one. Storm gets banned out, like I mentioned earlier, a lot because of the Storm NATO team up, or the Jeff NATO team up, I should say. I don't know why I said Storm NATO. But yeah, the Jeff NATO team up. And I think like her base kit's all right. I mean, I think she gets countered like pretty well by Hela and like other anti-flying characters, so pretty much Hela. But I think it's mostly this team up that just makes her really good. I think without this team up, she probably drops down to like maybe an A or B tier character. Invis Woman, as I mentioned before, I think she's just insane at almost every single stage of the game. Into like any team comp, she's just gonna be really good. She's just always gonna be a good character. I don't think she's gonna be like the best healer unless she has her specific metas. but like she's always gonna be a relevant healer and always just a very good character because her kit is just so damn good. It does more than healing and actually can influence the fight by making plays and countering enemy plays. So it's just insane. Iron Man, very good this season. You have the team with Ultron, of course. He gets like a 5% damage boost, Iron Man does. And he also has a one-shot ult to be able to like kill healers, counter like a lot of that stuff that's going on. His damage is just really, really strong right now. I feel like he can play like poke as well as play anti-dive to a certain extent, right? Because of his beam. If somebody dives in, he could just do a ton of damage to them if he wants to. And of course, like I said, his ult's just gonna be really good. You have to pocket the Iron Man while he's ulting so he doesn't die while he's doing it because he's pretty vulnerable. But as long as your strategists are doing that, he can get a great ult off and just kill 2 or 3 or even just kill the enemy healer, like the enemy Luna ulting, and that's it. Like that's their game, or at least that's their, that's their fight. It's over. So this character is really good. And then last but not least, under S tier, we have Spider-Man. This character is either very good, or sorry, he's either excellent, or he's subpar depending on who plays him. So you could obviously say that for any character in the game, but especially Spider-Man, he takes a lot of skill, in my opinion, to be able to be very good with. But players who are very good with him, like this character, is one of the most unfun characters to play against, especially when you're a healer, because he's typically going for the healers and going for the backline. But especially on maps too that have a lot of pull off like cliffs, like Central Park, for example, or any of those maps, or like Spider Islands, where he's just like consistently pulling you off. I mean, it's just so tough to deal with. It is so hard to deal with. I feel like you have to consume a lot of resources to try to deal with this guy. And so overall, I just think he's an incredibly insane character. I hate playing against him, and I'm going to leave him under S tier. I don't think he's double S tier, but I'm going to leave him under S tier for sure. Under A, very good, we have Ultron. So my thing with Ultron, and I know a lot of people are saying he's like really OP right now. My thing with Ultron is that he needs 3 healers, in my opinion, to work. You could try to fit him in a 2 healer comp, but from my experience, that almost never works out because he doesn't do enough healing himself. Like he's kind of like a in between DPS and healer, right? He's kind of like a pseudo DPS, I guess, or like just someone who's gonna be able to heal a little bit, but just DPS a lot of it, that kind of stuff. And so I think this character is great, but in the right comps. And so if he doesn't, like for example, Invis, I think you can fit into any comp. But like this character needs specific comps to work really well with. And that's why he's under A, very good, instead of saying like S or double S, that kind of stuff. So I think he's a good character all around. Honestly, great release. But I think he needs specific comps to be able to work out. Hella's another character I think that's very good. I don't really think she's OP at all right now. But an extremely accurate or precise Hella can be a very, very scary character to deal with. She can do a lot of damage very fast. And she's just going to be all around a very good character. I mean, not much more to say about her. She just does a lot of damage, and she does a lot of damage from range as well. So it can be kind of hard to kill her and take her off her angles and all that kind of stuff. So she's, in my opinion, she's always going to be like a good DPS unless they hard nerf her damage numbers. Kind of like how Invis is just a really good healer unless they, probably hard nerf her healer numbers or whatever the case. Groot, I think, is very good. He is a bit more map specific, in my opinion. He's got his walls, just the ability to block off heals and block corridors and prevent enemy teams from, say, for example, Yggdrasil Path, right? When you're approaching second point, be able to block those kinds of corridors so enemies can't come through, and then you can easily just capture the point. I think Groot all around is just a very good pick. His ult is still one of the best setup ultimates in the game. He can combo with just about anybody, especially like Iron Man, for example, or Mag, or whoever the case, right? So I think Groot's always going to be a good character as well. There are times, for example, if they have a wolf, probably don't want to pick Groot, but sometimes you just have to test the waters a little bit. So obviously these characters do have their own counters that you don't want to pick them into, but assuming those counters aren't up, or maybe they're not being effective in those games, he's just going to be an all-around great pick. Emma's another one that's a great pick. They did nerf her numbers, I believe, a little bit. I'm probably already doing this with some of the other characters, but I'll have the updates for the characters for 2.5 at the top right as well for you guys. But for Emma, yeah, they nerfed her a little bit, but her damage is still very strong, and she makes it so these two characters, or most dive, can't really play the game if she's actually playing to peel because of the ability to CC those characters. So I think Emma is still one of the best tanks. I don't think she's going to be as good as Mag, but I do think that you should probably pick Emma, probably not every game, but like most games, especially if they have a lot of dive. Cloak and Dagger. So this one's a bit more controversial. A lot of people don't like Cloak and Dagger right now, especially at a high level. I actually get like complained at quite a bit for picking Cloak and Dagger. But whenever I pick this character, I feel like I'm just doing a lot. So my healing is probably the best healing in the game besides Luna. And it's because she just has so much AoE healing, and she has like a lot of tools to deal with the fight. She's kind of like Invis in the sense where it's like you're not just AFK healing, but you are doing you're doing more. So for example, if they have a lot of dive, I like picking Cloak and Dagger because I can bubble myself. I have a nice right click. I can right click Strange Alt or like other alts coming at me, like Mag Alt, for example, Iron Man Alt, whatever it is. So I have like a lot of play with that, and also too, if they're diving me, I can switch to cloak form, E them, which blinds them, making it harder for them to play the game for like 1.5 seconds, and also they take 28% more damage for like 3 seconds, right? So it's just overall really hurting dive, and it also hurts a lot of like frontline tanks, especially if you have tanks running at you. I think this character is still very good. She does struggle with the individual heal a lot. So if they have like a ton of damage, and you're not really getting AoE healing benefit. For example, Clintar is a perfect map to play her, in my opinion, because it's like a very narrow passageway that you and your allies have to go through, so she can get a lot of AoE healing off through her E, through her bubble, through her autos, all that kind of stuff, and it can easily, quickly build up her ult. So I do think she's very good. She does struggle a little bit with the individual heal because she's mostly AoE heal based, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I think she's going to be an A tier character. If she had better individual healing, I'd definitely put her at the very least under S tier. Strange got a nice buff to his explosion, so it no longer decreases the further out it goes. It's like the same damage at all distances, which is insane. And also I think prior to this patch, his ult, maybe it was this patch, but his ult got a reduction in the ability to come up, essentially, so it got buffed, right? Like you can get it faster is what I'm trying to say. And so Strange can ult in, like he can, do what he's always done, jump in, say to an Inviswoman ult, and then like he just has more kill potential now without having to be as close to. So I think Strange is still a very good pick all around. And I think they've kind of done a really good job balancing him, because before he used to be very, very broken in like the first season or two, and then they kind of like hard nerfed him, so then he was like really, really bad. But now I think he's actually in a really good spot. I don't think he's like overly broken, but he's also like still really good in my opinion. So he's under very good for that reason. Punisher. As I mentioned earlier, I think Punisher is like probably like a top 6 DPS or a top 3 DPS, assuming like the other DPS are banned. I thought he was going to get nerfed with the because the rocket team up is no longer available, but overall like they buffed a lot of his like gun damage. Well, they did buff his gun damage, but they buffed like the choke, I guess, on the spread, and they also buffed the fire rate, I believe. So they kind of just like buffed him in general. And especially when you're teamed up with Rocket or say like in Luna with the damage boost, he's still going to shred through a lot of people. So I still think Punisher is a great pick. He's going to be very good. Salak is another one I think that's very good. She does get countered, I think, like pretty heavily by like Loki and some other like anti-dive strategists, but overall, like she has the ability to one-shot people, especially if you're not paying attention. Her ult can force out support ults too. Salak is just a super good character, super good dive character. Star-Lord, another great DPS. Not really too much to say about him. I just think he's a good DPS. Or, sorry, I think he's a very good DPS. He has the ability to force out support ults with his ult, and if they don't have ults up, you can pretty much just win a fight with his ult, assuming Loki doesn't have his lamps or anything like that. And then he's also just very annoying, especially if you have a Mag. Mag's going to be able to bubble Star-Lord while he goes in and presses E and just does a bunch of damage. So, yeah, I think Star-Lord's just an overall great pick. He's in a good spot, does a lot of damage, has a great ult. Not much more to say about him. Next up, we have Venom. Venom, I think, is also still in a very good spot. He does still have, I think, actually his HP, didn't it get like buffed or whatever this season, I believe? So he has like more HP. Maybe that was Groot. It was one of the two. In any case, though, Venom still does a ton of damage. His ult's still really, really good. You could still obviously combo with Luna, kill other healers if you want to. And all that kind of jazz. So I don't think Venom's going anywhere unless they nerf his numbers. He's still just a very good pick, especially if you want a more dive-oriented comp. Venom's probably going to be your man. I mean, he's going to be a lot better than Thor, that's for sure, when it comes to dive. And then last but not least, for the A tier, we have Bucky. Bucky has, seen some nerfs and whatnot throughout the last couple seasons. But overall, he's very good. He's great at countering Loki, right? If they have Loki clones, like switch off the Loki because Bucky's kind of farming them. I've definitely lost a lot of games like that. So whenever like, you have a character that's hard countering, I don't know if I'd say hard countering, but that's countering like an S tier character, he's probably going to be very good. And then of course his base kit's just really good, being able to displace enemies by hooking them in and then pushing them back. His damage is still going to be really good. So overall, Bucky just has a great kit. The ability to reset infinitely with his ult is pretty insane, and then have an execute threshold for enemies is just going to be very, very good. So that's our A tier list. Under B tier, we have Iron Fist and Magic. Both of these are dive heavy characters. I think Iron Fist is better than Magic. Originally, I actually had Iron Fist in A tier, but I decided to put him in B tier because I don't see him played as much. He's still very annoying, but I don't see him played as much. And I do think if you have like an Emma is just gonna be like she's just gonna be like a hard counter to these two characters as long as she's playing Emma correctly. And in my opinion, that's like mostly peeling if the enemy has dive. And so I think like Emma just kind of like makes these two characters very, very hard to play, and you probably just don't want to pick them there. If Emma's not in the game, I'd say Iron Fist is probably an A tier. Maybe I would keep Magic in B tier still. Magic I really haven't seen too much, but Iron Fist, he's definitely very, very annoying still for sure. He's kind of like Spider-Man, except he doesn't. It doesn't feel like he like insta kills you, I guess. Like he's more of a nuisance, you know what I mean? But if left alone, he will kill your backline, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's why I have these two in B tier, mostly because like Emma can counter them pretty hard. But I mean they could easily be A tier. At the very least, Iron Fist could easily be A tier. I think I would still keep Magic in B tier. Next we have Johnny. Johnny, got some pretty hard nerfs. He still feels, I think, decent. Now, I've never been a Johnny player, so I'm not sure. But from what I've seen, he still does damage and still kills, but his kill potential significantly went down since the nerfs. This character, for those of you guys that were, following this game last season or last patch, this character was like a double S tier character. This character was pick ban every single game. Now he's kind of just a good character. I still think he does a lot of damage. He's still decent, but like his kill potential just went down so much that you can feel it like pretty hard in the game. So I don't think he's gonna be like nearly as good as he was before, of course, but I still think he's like in a good spot. Like he's decent. I wouldn't pick him over some of these other DPS, so that's why he's in B tier. Then we have Jeff. Other tier lists in the past, I've put Jeff at like D or C tier, but Jeff did get some reworks. Jeff is now less so of a DPS character and more of a healer, which he should be because he's under the strategist class. So you should be a healer, in my opinion. The reworks, I think, did him good, did him justice. I know a lot of people were saying that they were nerfs at the very least at the beginning of this patch, but he actually heals pretty well now. And I actually just made a video updated for this patch about who I think is the best pocketer, and Jeff is up there. Jeff is up there because his healing is actually very, very good. So I do think Jeff is a good pick. I don't think I would pick him necessarily over any of these other, healers at all. But in terms of like comp viability, I think there's some good comps you can play with Jeff, especially if you have Storm. I mean, if you do have Storm, you're always picking Jeff, right? Like this team up is just broken. So that's another thing that kind of makes him relevant. Like if Storm does get through, okay, now we need a Jeff. But just kind of like Ultron, maybe I would pick him in a 3 healer comp just because even though he can heal now, he doesn't have like a massive healing trank. Like he doesn't have a massive healing ult. So I would still probably pick him in a triple support comp. But nevertheless, I think Jeff's buffs did him justice, or changes, which I also think are buffs. So yeah, go Jeff. Woo! And then we have Mr. Fantastic. I think this character is good. Not much to say about him. I've seen him. It's kind of like the Spider-Man effect. It just depends who plays him. I've seen some Fantastics absolutely pop off. And others just do dog shit. So, it's kind of like the Spider-Man effect. Just depends who's piloting him. But I think if he does have a good pilot, then he is just going to be a very good character. He's very annoying. He can be a nuisance. And at the same time, too, he can still do quite a bit of damage, especially with his ult. So, I do think he is a decent character. Widow. Now, this is weird. Why would I have Widow under good? I listen, bro. I've seen some really good widows recently. All right, I've seen some very good widows, especially with the Mantis team up too. Or not team up, but like the Mantis, stimming effect, and she can like one shot headshot. I do think she has her play now, at least in comp, but she's not. I think she needs like more of a team to be picked around her, if that makes sense. Rather than just being able to pick her straight up, such as again going Mantis and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, listen, I've been in the game with the number one Widow before. He was on my team, and I would not want to fight against that. I've seen some absolute domination from Widow, so I don't think I can put her in average or subpar, but I do think she's a good character. I just don't think she's very good, so that's why she's kind of in B tier. It's mostly because I've seen some really good Widows. And similar, like Penny's also pretty good right now, I think. Not like very good, but just decent all around because Penny did get the team up buff with Rocket, allowing Penny to have like double the mines as well, which can actually be pretty good on some points. I believe Central Park is one, and especially convergence style maps when you can just like double minefield the area, and actually makes it really, really hard for people to push in. So I do think Penny also received some buffs, I think, prior to this patch too, to make her a bit better. So I think Penny all around is in a pretty good spot right now. Not like overly OP, but in a pretty good spot. Rocket, I actually don't really like playing Rocket right now. Honestly, I was going to put Rocket under like C average, but I think Rocket still definitely has some play, especially like points that, especially in convoy, points that take a long time to walk back to. It's really nice to have that Rocket res up. And you do have the team up with Penny. So in some like convergence points, he can be really good on that standpoint. And of course, you can combo your ult pretty well with like Punisher and maybe some other characters too that can of course use the damage boost. So I don't really play Rocket as much right now, just because I think like these other healers are way better than he is. However, he still has his play, especially in like certain team comps. So that's why he's still going to be a good character. Scarlet Witch, I think, has actually always been underrated. I think she's a decent pick, especially those that can hit their ults really well. And if you're comboing ult with Strange Portal, which of course doesn't happen all the time, but like if it does, it's really nice. She kind of like forces everybody to sort of like evacuate the area. So especially if like there's a Luna ult, you can essentially zone it by time, because if Luna wants to stay in the area, she's going to die Scarlet ult, right? Unless like you take precautions to deal with it. But overall, I think she's a decent pick. She has some influence and she can like play anti-dive pretty well. So she's pretty good into anti-dive team comps. Squirrel Girl, I was thinking about putting her under C. The only reason why she's under B tier is because there are some maps like Yggdrasil Path where I think like she's really good at just getting off a lot of damage and just getting picks, because people have to play around those like tight corners, and she can easily just like do a ton of damage to them and even like pick them off with her autos, her AoE autos. So her ult is kind of dog shit though. I think it always has been, especially at a high level when everybody knows to actually shoot the ult. So like I think her ult is what holds her back from being like a really good character. I think they would have to like change that up. But she's also decent at dealing with dive, because she has the root cripple effect, where if they get rooted, they can't really dash out. So she can like root venom, and she's actually pretty good into venom and those kinds of characters. BP as well, if you can like hit BP with it, or like Hulk, really any dive, because they need their escapes to sort of get out. So I think she's a decent character, but I definitely would only pick her in like super niche circumstances. And then finally for B tier, we have The Thing. The Thing, I think, I actually think this character is good, but you definitely want to play with like Invis Woman to kind of get the team up. And also you want to play it for like a specific purpose, like to counter dive. I think he's really good, because he is kind of a, what's the term? He's an alt bot, but for the enemy team, because like he's really easy to do damage to, and he's also really easy to heal. So he's actually going to be like pretty tanky for the most part in the front line, but because he's also very easy to do damage to, enemy DPS can farm up their ults quite easily on him. And so it might not be the best, like just like how, for example, Squirrel Girl can easily farm up enemy healer ults because of how much damage she's doing from far away. It's like the same thing with The Thing, except he's doing it for like the enemy DPS essentially. So that's just one thing you have to watch out for. But again, he is good in those more like niche circumstances. So like if they have a lot of dive, he's very good because he has the cripple on his dash, and of course he can like jump to your allies, giving them like 25% damage reduction, damage mitigation. So I do think he is like a good pick, like if you meet those circumstances. And then for C tier under average, we just have Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight is good if you're comboing again with Groot, or maybe like comboing with some other characters, maybe like Strange or something like that. And he does have his good maps. I think like Clintar is a pretty decent map for him. But overall, I think Moon Knight's just kind of like an average character. I don't really see him being picked outside of like specific circumstances that could like greatly benefit him. He is going to be decent, I think, at the Loki because you can bounce your autos off Loki clones or your ricochets off Loki clones. But again, just like overall a character I wouldn't really see in too many of my games. Adam is another one. Adam is just kind of like I kind of feel like Adam sort of got replaced by Ultron. Adam has always been the character, in my opinion, that requires like a triple healer comp, and I do think he is still decent, especially if they have a lot of dive. Of course, that's what Adam's sort of been known for, is like helping to counter enemy dive because of Soul Bomb, because of his burst healing. And they have given him some buffs here and there to make his healing a little bit more consistent by, allowing you to get headshots onto enemies, which decreases the healing cooldown. But like I said, I think like that spot has kind of been filled by Ultron, so I don't really see too many Atoms anymore. If you're running a triple healer comp, you're probably going to be running with Ultron, unless you're just doing like a res comp, then you can kind of do that with Atom. And then BP, don't see him too much. He can still be quite a bit annoying on the dive, but I think like he's just been replaced by some other dive characters. Same thing with Captain America too. Captain America got some nerfs, and he's just kind of been like replaced. Like I don't know if I would play Captain America anymore over like Venom or something like that, but he's still decent at stalling. So like you would pick this character to stall, for example. But yeah, I mean, like I think like BP is just gonna be like just an average pick. I mean, you can still make him work. You can make any of these characters work. I mean, shoot, you can make Mantis or Thor work, but it's just like why? Like, why would I ever do that and like make it harder for myself when I could be picking like some of these characters up here, Hulk. Actually, I don't even know why I have Hulk under average. I'm gonna put him under good. That's my bad. I have the right to change this as I feel fit. But Hulk, I actually do think is a good character. I actually think he's under B tier, not C tier. He does still do a lot of damage, especially really good Hulks. I've been in the game with like the number one Hulk before or whatever, and he was just absolutely farming us. And then of course his team up with Namor, which I'll get into in a second, is going to be really really good against anti-dive and all that kind of jazz. So I do think Hulk is a great pick for like the team up with Namor, and maybe if you also have like another frontline tank. But he is like a character that you need, I think, to sort of pick around to make a team comp work. Like Mag, you can pick in any team comp and it's fine. Like Mag is always a good pick, right? But like Hulk is not always going to be a good pick, that kind of jazz. So I think it's going to be under good for that reason. And of course, finally under C tier, we have Namor. Namor, I think, is just an average pick if you don't have the team up. But if you do have the team up, I think Namor can be a very good pick. He does still have his one-shot ult. You can combo pretty well with Luna's ult. And of course, he has the Hulk team up now, so he gets like a Gamma Squid that shoots a consistent laser beam, can be very good into dive-oriented characters like Spider-Man, like Black Panther, Venom, that kind of jazz. So I do think Namor is really, really good if he does have the team up, but without the team up, I just think he's kind of just an average character. I mean, I don't know if I'd want him over some of these other picks without the Hulk team up. And then finally for D, we have Subpar Mantis. I don't think this character has not been good since season 0, in my opinion. She has her specific comp she can be good with, like Res comp, for example, with like Adam and stuff, or like stimming Widow. But at the end of the day, I always think you need a triple healer comp whenever you're running this character. I've had multiple cases where my teammate is thrown because they try to make Mantis work in a 2 healer comp, but it's like, bro, it's just not working, right? Not enough healing. And I know she does damage, but like, why would I pick her over Ultron at that point? I don't know. Her ult's decent. I just don't think she's a good character. I think she's subpar. I don't really ever see a need for her again, unless we're running like a triple healer comp, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't want to though. Play with her. And then finally we have Thor. Thor is just not really that good of a character. So Thor kind of has a like he can be made to work. But Thor's always had this thing where he just kind of does a lot of damage. Like, he does do a lot of damage. But after talking with Alfie, Alfie on LG, the LG tank, he says that Thor is actually more of a peeler, which is interesting because I wouldn't have thought that. So why would I ever pick Thor to peel when I could pick like the Thing to peel, for example, or Emma? You know what I mean? Like he's just not relevant. He says he's more of like a peel-oriented character because he does do a lot of damage, so he can kind of like quickly kill the dive, and he also has like a slow field and all that kind of stuff. So I can definitely see it. I also think you could probably just play him aggressively too, which is I think what most people try to do. But even at that point, again, I think you would just pick Venom over him. He just doesn't do it as well. One thing I think that is cool though, and I made a combos video about this, is Thor's last hit on his chain can be comboed pretty well with like other characters, for example, Cloak and Dagger, with like the damage increase from Cloak form. And you can combo and you can actually one-shot enemy healers out of their ults. So I don't really see people doing that too much because I don't think they know about it, or maybe they just don't communicate. But that is one really cool thing you can do with Thor, and Thor's ult's pretty easy to hit. I mean, it's a wide area AoE. You can't really miss it. But yeah, I mean, if you want to pick Thor to like combo with, Rocket Ult or Cloak and Dagger's E, or like maybe even Mantis Stem might be able to do it. I would have to do the math on that real quick. But if you just wanted to pick him to like combo stuff, I think maybe he could be pretty decent, and then you could just pick off healers with your ult. That's viable. That's a viable strat. But aside from that, I think like other dive and peel oriented tanks just do it better than he does. So he's gonna be under D for Subpar. But that's gonna be the tier list, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I try to do a little bit more informative than just making a list. I do just try to make these tier lists for fun. At the end of the day, tier lists are pretty subjective. They're just based off like my opinion. Other people might have different tier lists. I do try to base them off of what I see and experience and rank, at least at a high level. So a lot of this is just mostly formed off like what I'm looking at, slash what's in my game, what's working, what's being effective, what's not being effective, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned some stuff and kind of got updated on the new patch. And until the next one, see ya.